Hello, my name is Matt Burt, and welcome to the PublishU Podcast, where we feature the real life stories of authors from around the world. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking with my great friend Paul Mengert from Greensboro, North Carolina, in the US of A, who has written the first of a series of books, pocketbooks, and this one is called Boards, Bylaws and Better Governance. Paul, it's great to have you with us as our guest today.
Thank you, Matt. Great to see you.
Hey, tell everyone that's listening and watching, tell them a little bit about you, something personal, something professional.
Well, I've been in the business of assisting condominium and homeowner associations most of my adult life. Before I entered this line of work, I was a wine merchant. So,
Oh,
and I've been doing this for several decades and really enjoy trying to help people make their communities a better place to live.
yeah, yeah. So typically, I mean, how big are the communities you're helping? How many apartments or condominiums? How many in a community would typically are there?
Yeah, well, first of all, we, at least here in the US, we don't usually use the term apartments as those are, typically rentals owned by companies,
Okay.
whereas condominium and homeowner associations are owned by individuals
Yeah.
and, usually owner occupied, although sometimes the individuals will rent their properties. But to answer your question, the communities that we have worked with over the years have ranged from as small as maybe 10 or less homes to as many as several thousand. So it
Wow.
really runs the gamut, as they say, as to how large the communities are. Yet they tend to have a lot of similar features, whether they're 10 homes or 3,000, let's say.
Yeah. And what are those key features? What are the things that the people in these associations are most concerned about or passionate about?
Well, that's really where Lessons from the Neighborhood was born, which is the series that this book is part of. There really are a lot of things that people, care about in their community. And let's start by saying they want to make it a great place to live,
Yeah.
great for their family. And, there's some key indicators that go to whether the people think it's a great place to live or not. But one of the challenges is not everybody has the same indicators. Some people simply want to come home and shut their door and mind their own business within their home, and other people want parks and playgrounds and facilities for their kids and family. And some people care a lot about beautiful aesthetics, some care very little about that. So when people are choosing their neighborhood to begin with, it would be wise to choose one that fits them. But once we have a group of people, then it becomes the challenge of the leadership of the community to make it as close to everybody's image as great as possible. And
Mm.
that's really where a lot of the rub may come in.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. And you've been working in this space for since you gave up being a wine merchant, which is
Well, that was
a couple
quite
of
some
decades.
time. That was, frankly, quite some time ago. It seems like a lifetime ago. But over my career working with community associations and homeowner associations, I've had the opportunity, of course, mainly in the U.S., but also somewhat around the world to assist associations. And one of the interesting things to me, and I think it's the reason that Lessons from the Neighborhood works so well, is that whether you're dealing in Raleigh, North Carolina, or Peoria, Illinois, or Los Angeles, or Almaty, Kazakhstan, a lot of the issues that people have and the processes that are used are really the same. And a lot of
Mm.
it's about building consensus, Matt. It's about, working not only as an enforcer of the rules, but also somebody who's trying to really get back to what I mentioned a minute ago, who's really trying to make it great for everybody. Now, there are legal documents and there are laws and there's a lot to conform with. And for those who have read a sneak peek of the governance book that you're talking about, particularly today, they will find that throughout the book, I've said process is your armor. Because while we're working to make things great for everybody, we have to remember that it needs to be done within a framework of the laws and the rules, often called governing documents within those communities. And we've really, you talk about commonalities again, we've really found that communities that follow the process carefully, that make sure they're doing things within the laws that are set up and within the governing documents for their community, they really tend to thrive better than those who are kind of playing loose with the rules. And even when you play loose with the rules, and I recount some great stories where boards have bent the rules in probably a noble fashion. They've done something that most people would say, that really was the right move to make. But what they find is later, when they've played outside the rules, then other people come along that may be a little bit of different circumstance, but they say, oh, well, you let Mrs. Smith do this. Why shouldn't you let me do it? So it is important to swim in your lane, stay within your process. And when you believe that the governing documents that set up your processes aren't correct, then you need to go to legal counsel and look at how those can be changed and adjusted. And one of the beautiful things, Matt, about every community that we work with is a majority of the owners can change the rules. Now, I
Yeah.
say a majority, sometimes it's a super majority, and a 51% may not be enough to change what people thought they were buying into. Maybe it's, 2/3 or even 90%. In some cases, it may be even more than that if you're going to change the rules. But if you can get everybody to agree, we want to change the rules, then you can do it. Short of that, people ought to have what they've bought into. And
Absolutely.
and likewise, Matt, if they've elected people, well, first of all, let me say this. The really cool thing about community associations, neighborhood associations, is they elect their own leaders. So the folks come together typically annually and elect the leaders. And when people aren't satisfied with the leaders, there's some methods to change those leaders. We see that happen very rarely because what we see emerge is the people who want to serve their neighborhoods really do so in good faith and with good heart and with good effort to really accomplish what's needed in the communities. It's very interesting that throughout my career, I've seen very few people rise to a leadership position in a neighborhood that aren't really looking out for the best interest of the neighborhood. Now,
Yeah.
we can argue about what's the best method to look out for the best interests. That's a different question. But I try to get our clients, and I'm trying to get my readers to somewhat separate what is your goal, and typically people pretty quickly agree on the goal, and
Yeah.
then how are we trying to get there. And that's often where, as I, to use my terminology, that's often where the rub is, where
Yes.
different
Yeah.
people have different ideas about how to accomplish the same objectives. But
Amazing.
I think this is for people who live in community associations, live under a neighborhood governance system. This is really a fascinating topic that is really, I think quite interesting.
Mm.
Um, One of the things I would mention, Matt, to your listeners is there's an organization. It's actually based here in the U.S., although our recent president was from Dubai, so it really is an international organization, the Community Association Institute, which does a lot of work for the industry in terms of surveys and education and trends and assistance to both professionals and volunteers. But they have done for many years surveying of the folks that live in associations, they've had it actually done by professional survey companies, very reputable companies. And they have found year after year that a very high percentage of people that live in the communities are very satisfied with their management and governance.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that people end up being so satisfied is the people that are making the decisions see them at the mailbox. So
Yeah.
it's really a one-on-one type of relationship that a lot of times these people have. So on the one hand, it is a democracy where you elect leaders that make decisions for you, but it's really a close-up democracy because it may be that 30 people elected 3 leaders or a
Yeah.
thousand people elected 5 leaders.
Yeah. So I'm going to interrupt you there, Paul, and I just want to kind of take a step back because we had a conversation about this project because lessons for the neighborhood, I mean, you'd all written a bit, you'd written a book, an ebook, and when we chatted, you know, this project has grown somewhat. Should I put it like that? From a ebook turning into a physical book to actually now a collection, a book series aimed at resourcing community associations. So tell us a little bit about the journey you've been on in your head. Why are you writing a series of pocketbooks, and what's so important about this for you and for people in associations?
Well, it's an interesting question, Matt. Over the years, I've written quite a few blogs and articles, and even a couple of books previously. But this was really a, a project to encapsulate the lessons from the neighborhood, kind of what I have seen over the years. And, granted, other people may have seen, different things. So I guess different different professionals could come together with different perspectives. But this is to share my perspective of what I've seen work in community associations. It's not a textbook that teaches people how to read a financial statement. We assume that most of our readers come to us with that kind of knowledge, and those who don't, we're happy to point them in the direction where they could find lots of very fine materials that will teach them technical skills. A lot of what I'm talking about in Lessons from the Neighborhood are soft skills,
Mm,
examples of what I've seen work and not work in community associations. And I hope by sharing that with others that they will benefit from some of the experience that we've collected, that I've collected over the last few decades of people I've had the pleasure of working with.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so this is the first book in a series of 5 pocketbooks. Give us a little flavor of what's coming next. So this is all about boards and bylaws and better governance, the systems, the processes. I mean, when I first read the title, I thought, oh, that's interesting. But you've actually brought it to life in the conversation today, as you do in the book. But what's next? What's coming down the track for us?
Well, when I started the project, I tried to think about what were the different major kind of areas of the things that people need to know that are running neighborhoods and community
Sure.
associations. And certainly governance is probably at the top of the pyramid. You've got to
Yeah.
get the governance part correct, but there are also other parts that are really important, and our other books include topics like stewardship and maintenance and decision making. So we're going to try to take our readers and clients and colleagues through the experiences that I've had with neighborhood associations in these 5 different areas. And I think the one I didn't mention was the last one we have about making handling pressures.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes really difficult when you have a decision that has to be made when you know the people and you know the circumstances and you may not have much time to make it, is different than how you may feel if you're sitting in a hotel discussing this with a group of colleagues where the decision academically is obvious, but when you really have the pressure, it can sometimes feel a little different. And I've really tried to work in that volume on how leaders and managers of the communities can understand that they're going to face pressures and how they're going to make the same good decisions under pressure that they would make in an everyday
Mm,
situation.
amazing. And so, Paul, what is your, as we wrap up today, what is your, um, what was it the writing my book journey helped you with most about writing this book? You journeyed with us for 100 days with a group of other authors, all writing books. What was the obstacle you felt, and how did you overcome it?
Um, it was interesting and helpful to have some outside perspectives from people who aren't in our industry and may know nothing about what I'm working on, but collectively taking the ideas and seeing people who also were writing books on topics I may know little or nothing about, but how the process, and it is interesting because it's one of the things my book really works on, but how the process of accomplishing something can transcend multiple industries. And I think one of the things that if I was giving advice to my kids or people just starting would be to have a good mentor or have a good set of mentors. And the You Publish has provided me with a set of mentors to help on my book journey, and I maybe need to make it, in my case, journeys, because
Absolutely.
one of the things, Matt, I have found that makes my world more challenging is it was fairly easy getting the first book, but then you have to get the second, third, and fourth, and we want them to feel the same as the first book. And when you're writing about governance, it's a little bit different than writing about maintenance. But
Yeah.
we want to keep the same feel throughout those books, and the mentorship that your team has brought to that has been really helpful, and I think will ultimately benefit our clients and readers.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, Paul. It's great you've been able to join us today. And thank you all for listening to the PublishU podcast featuring the genuinely real life stories of authors from around the world. If you're interested in writing a book or even a book series, as Paul has done, please reach out to us at PublishU.com. Publish the letter U.com. We would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, make sure you subscribe for more. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.